First time ever I realized it's a private chat in StreamYard, and I look at my first message. It says, "I'm in here, you dope."
Well, I'm surprised that you're alive because I know that you've been hosting like the whole company minus myself in Kentucky. I got a couple questions. Is that your home? Did you rent that house or do you live in that house full time?
Well, first of all, you need to come next time for sure. Second of all, absolutely. I mean, it's very good having face presence with your staff and your team versus everything going by Discord and virtual, because as we know, you can get into some, when you meet face to face, things different. That's the world we used to live in. It's not the world we live in now, and it's a lot better world at times. No one's dead yet. I'm not 28 anymore, so I don't I'm Mr. Irish goodbye. I'm done by 9:30. 10 I'm hanging around, and I'm fucking climbing over the gate. I'm just out of there, right?
Goodbye. No, see you later.
Bye. Dad is gone. I'm going right to bed. Take your money in poker, then go to bed. So yeah, it's been fun, man.
I, by the way, just turned 29, and I've been on your schedule for the past 5 years. So I'm a massive advocate of this. As soon as the clock strikes around 11 p.m., I'm out of there.
Oh,
those days are behind me. I retired from that in my early 20s.
Me too. I play a good game, but
are you a good poker player?
Am I a good poker player? I will say yes, I'm a good poker player. Funny story about the other night, but yes, did okay with the guys. It's easy playing a group of guys when they're just absolutely obliterated.
Right. Who do you think the best poker player is at RPS?
At RPS?
Yeah.
Probably a guy named JT Hayes. Well, at the house right now, probably JT Hayes. I'm going to say me 1A.
Yeah. I'm pretty bad at blackjack and poker. Anything that isn't sports betting, I would say I'm suboptimal.
You know what I'm shitty at? Golf. I fucking can't play anymore. I can't.
That I'm good at. Did you play golf recently?
I did. I don't play enough. I've got this lingering hand injury, and it's frustrating. We'll try to get it back, but yesterday was crap show. 5,000. So yeah, we need to work on the game. I'm incredible at roulette, says Kyle Hewitt. Roulette for Hewitt. Brought to you by AutoZone. AutoZone. As I said yesterday to everyone at the house, are you in the zone? Get the fuck out. Get out. Get out of my house.
I don't know how.
Wiley, I'd play you at 5K. Oh, I'd play you at 5K. Yeah.
Usually we burn out with our sponsors after a couple of shows. Jersey Mike's was done with us after a show. They said, we don't want any part of these hooligans.
No, they will email me and say, please stop mentioning us on your show.
Somebody went to Depot the other day and told me my code no longer works there as well.
No, they'll do that. It still works at DQ Grill and Chill.
Tried to buy a chainsaw with promo code Andy.
Yeah, you can buy a shovel and a chainsaw, and firewood with Andy code. What is it? Andy code 15. You get a hacksaw too. Throwing a hacksaw.
Yeah. So we got so much to talk
about.
Oh
yeah, Ghost Tuesday. I did lose my voice. I was screaming so loudly at these idiots because I thought they were scamming me. That's my thing, though. I generate these conspiracy theories within myself to get an edge, and I believe that they were taking my money. I believe Bryce Morrow, third and schlong, was overcounting my buy-ins for poker, and I started everything. So I lost my voice. Turns out I was wrong, of course. But yeah, so here's what I want to talk about. First things first, we are going to debate structure of build on the Arnold Palmer Invitational I think the most controversial player this week in terms of price will be one player we've been talking about in Discord and whether or not to play him. But did you learn anything from these ding dongs at the Honda? Sorry, the Cognizant. I'm very frustrated with the course not being as difficult as it was in previous years. We can't be all reliant on wind. I don't think it taught me a lot about last week or the players. I don't know what to carry forward from it, honestly. It was disappointing.
Well, first of all, we will definitely talk some Minwoo because the discourse, I think that the Minwoo decision this week is one of the more fascinating DFS predicaments I think we've had in quite some time. Yeah. Where was the invite, Wiley? Mine got lost in the mail too. I didn't find out this was happening until
Andy said Natalie could not go. She was actually invited.
Anyway, so we've been talking about Minwoo all morning in the Discord, all last night too. Like I was deep diving every single angle of this player, and I find myself, the more I dive into Minwoo's statistical profile and his trends, even more confused than where I was when I first saw the pricing. Saul, our friend, actually sent a message to one of the guys over at DraftKings. He posted this in the Discord for us that does the pricing and said, "Can you just acknowledge how much you screwed up this Minwoo thing? And are you gonna change it?" Who's actually a nice guy. I've communicated with him a little bit for myself. He listens to the podcast. He's a good dude. But he was like, no, he was a late ad. We're just going to leave it. Guys are underpriced every week. And it's like, yeah, guys are underpriced every week. But I mean, is anyone blinking if Minwoo is 8.4 in this field? No. And I mean, to bring it back to what you asked about the Honda, if you're looking for reasons not to play Minwoo, his long-term iron numbers are really poor. And this is maybe the hardest approach course on the PGA Tour in terms of the firmness of the greens, the amount of long irons that you're going to need to hit out of the rough. And so just at a macro level, if you want to fade Minwoo on the basis of he is simply not a good enough iron player to compete at this golf course, there's merit in that argument. Now, with that being said, he gained 6 strokes on approach at the Honda, right? The best iron week of his entire career by 2 strokes, which puts your brain in a pretzel, because we didn't play him at the Honda. And we talked about this on the Wednesday show, because in his last start, he had the worst iron week of his entire career. So Minwoo goes from having the worst iron week of his entire career, losing 5 in Phoenix, to the best week of his entire career at the Honda, gaining 6. Which, as I mentioned, just totally puts your brain in a pretzel.
How many tiers does Cognizant have to collect every time we still call it the Honda? So Honda's getting the same still bounce, and we'll forever get the same bounce, even though they don't put $1 into it anymore. So yeah, you get a free Honda Accord, Andy code 15 RPS.
Yeah. If Honda doesn't want any part of that tournament anymore,
it's brought to. We're gonna this show's sponsored by Honda now. We're sponsored by Honda.
There we go.
No, here's what I'm like. Here's my pro side for Minwoo Lee. If you look at historical winners of the API, and we'll talk about this. I put my notes up. Your article's out. Again, your article is the articulate, well edited version of this week, plus stats, plus things you look for. Only exclusive to members at RPS. Use code Andy15 to sign up and to read them. We've got a golf only package, so you can give it a try for a week or a month. But what I said in my notes is that this is another Florida swing brute, Bay Hill. If it is, it's Arnie's place. So he's such a respected figure in golf. Players loved coming here. They love coming here. I don't know if there's more. Well, it's an elevated event now, but I don't know if there's more sort of disconnection from Arnie since he's been gone, and people just want to step away from this course because if you hear the whispers behind the scenes, this is one of the players, at least the ones I've talked to, not their favorite place to play. Right? Totally. And you rarely get complaints because it is Arnie's place and it is revered, and he's such a revered player and personality of the game. He did so much for the game, but the one time you did hear something was from Rory in 2022 after he went 76-76 on the weekend and lost to Scheffler, is that he thought it didn't reward good shots. And that's something you rarely hear from someone like Rory, who's very political and very well thought in terms of his comments. But that's the issue here. It's very long. Orlando Windermere can get windy and very firm and fast, that to the point where you can't even control the ball on the green. So you've seen really good iron players, and I'm getting back to the Min Woo Lee point. That's how you circle back, motherfuckers. But you've seen really good iron players, but more importantly, you've seen guys, Sandbelt players, Mark Leishman, good iron player, good wind player, Sandbelt Australian. You've seen Tyrrell Hatton. You've seen Lee Westwood before the retirement from golf. Open style players, wind players, Euro players, good iron players. And if you look historically, Bryson did well here before he retired from golf. If you look, I guess that's a theme. If you win at the API, you're done. You're gone to live.
Rory, Jason Day still hanging around, I suppose. What's going on with Matt Every these days? He won this tournament.
That's the anomaly. He used to own this place, right?
I know.
He's fantastic. Yeah. But on to Min Woo Lee is that, he's Sandbelt golf, good win player. I will make the case, I put in my notes, this has the most difficult par threes on tour. And I think a lot of players don't love the long over 200 par threes. They've got 3 of them. They're all in the top 10 on difficulty holes on this course. And so they're very important to the overall 4-day architecture of your round. So if you look at approaches over 200 yards in the years that these players were successful, for instance, Bryson, number 1, 2021 and 1. He was number 1 in procs from over 200. If you look at 2020, Hatton, number 7, he won. Leishman, second place, number 10. If you want to look at something, because that's very important to this course, is the par threes. Firm, fast. It's going to be windy this weekend. And, decently sized par fives, which are the easiest holes in the course. Mm-hmm. You look at, that's the one thing that Min Woo Lee is, from his approach game, is actually decent at. So for me, I'm looking at decent long iron players, mm-hmm. Can handle the wind. Aussies, Cam Davis,
Adam Scott, course history. Scott. Yeah,
Adam Hadwin's a good playoff. We can get to that in a second.
Actually.
But that's you go over what you think of this course. Those are my notes on Twitter right now from watching this tournament year after year and saying, fuck, this is something we need to look out for every year. You have single digits winning 3 of the last 4 years. You had Scotty Scheffler win -4 in 2022. That's extraordinarily difficult course. That's U.S. Open type conditions, right?
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, actually, both the Hatton and Scheffler years, it played as the hardest course on the PGA Tour, including the majors. The other thing I would say, and I talked about this in the podcast that I did on Sunday, and this is such it's going to be so interesting to see what happens with this trend of unheralded, longer shot PGA Tour winners this year. Because if that doesn't change this week, then I don't know when it would ever change, because this golf course accentuates tee to green skill more so than any other golf course on the PGA Tour in terms of how difficult it is to gain strokes off the tee and how difficult it is to gain strokes on approach. And this can tie us back into the Min Woo conversation as well in pricing. In my opinion, the advantage that Scotty Scheffler and Rory McIlroy have at this golf course, and you could throw Ludwig into that category based on his driving ability. You could throw Hovland into that category. You could throw Cameron Young into that category. You could throw Will Zalatoris into that category. These guys that typically raise their baseline on firmer greens, longer rough, US Open style tests, very, very challenging tee to green tests, like this category of courses like Bay Hill, Torrey Pines, Memorial, Marco Simone was like this, Brookline, a lot of the US Winged Foot, Oak Hill, right? Bay Hill falls into that category where these types of players like Scheffler and Rory and a couple of the guys I just mentioned.
How many times did Tiger win Torrey Pines and Bay Hill?
Yeah.
16?
Tiger. Yeah, Tiger. And I talked about this in the pod too. It's like you look at the strokes gained total. It's like Bryson, Winged Foot, Oak Hill, Bay Hill connection. You look at the best guys in strokes gained total at Bay Hill over the last 15 years. It's like 4 of the best 8 players of the last 2 decades, right? So this golf course, more than basically any other golf course on the PGA Tour, gives the elite players that are elite at this skill a leg up, right? They start on second base over a Mackenzie Hughes or an Adam Schenk on this golf course more so than any golf course on the PGA Tour. And because of the way that the pricing is this week, where we have reverted back to a more flat, traditional DraftKings structure. And Scotty, this is another thing we were just talking about in the Discord. Scotty's 11-3, Rory's 10-6. Like the build of Rory, Scotty in the same lineup, you just throw Min Woo in there, and you're cooking with gas. Like you've got, I think, 7.4 remaining. So I think
it's a free square. It really is a free square. However you want to play it. I mean, that's what people are going to look at it as.
They're going to look at it as. I would argue there's no such thing as a free square in golf, but this is probably as. I mean, okay. Let me ask you 2 questions. Question number 1: if you were in charge of pricing this week, what would you price Min Woo?
It's surprising they did that because they always trail the betting market. And I was like, did he open at 110 or something? I mean, he's 35-1 now, right? So
no,
35 to. I mean, he probably should have been 7-9 at worst.
I would say 8-2 because you look at the low 8s and it's Poston, Sungjae, Russ Henley, Sahith, and like Russ Henley, for example, Russ Henley was 10-2 at the Honda, okay, and he finishes 40th, and then he's 8K. So Min Woo,
you got Tommy Fleetwood at 8-8, which is the high end of that range. I mean, the
right, and Min Woo is
2,000 more.
Yeah, he's 9.6 at the Honda, finishes 2nd, and is now $1,400 cheaper than Russell at 8. So I think.
And how many times has Tommy Fleetwood won the PGA Tour? How many times has Tommy Fleetwood won the PGA Tour? 0.
Mm-hmm. Good. I like him this week, though. I don't think he can win, but I think he's a decent play.
Oh, Blake Agee said 7,900. You are in the zone.
Yeah,
you are in the zone. Get in the zone, Blake Agee.
Yeah, I would say 82, but I think 70.
That's fine. I'm cool with that. But that's
so how many times can you remember a guy being 1,400 off what you think he should be?
This one, I mean, we've had some differences, but the betting market tracked it in terms of I can't believe this player is 3,000 less than this player. In this case, this is just an obvious mess that people are going to jump all over. Because really, in essentially a no-cut event, Min Woo Lee doesn't need to do a tremendous amount at that price. And if you're playing the double stud model, right? If you're playing Scheffler Rory, and I for sure believe Min Woo Lee will be Scheffler Min Woo Lee 1-2-2-1 in terms of ownership. I think Scheffler by far and away will be the highest owned. I think Scheffler, based on what we've seen recently, 12K fee now. What was last week? Was Rory 12K? We've had two 12Ks in a row.
Rory was 12 too, and he was like 30%, right?
30%, right? Scheffler, the greatest ball striker on earth, struggling with putting, has won here in a course that demands the best approach game, which he's got it, the best tee to green game, which he's got it. I like Scheffler is a I set the over under at 30.05. I'm saying the over on that, to my opinion.
I think that I have Rory and Scheffler closer in ownership than you do.
I think I mean, I think that Rory will get owned too. People love playing that guy. But last week, again, mid.
Yeah, right? Mid. Well, let's do this. Okay. Sure. I think this is valuable because I think a lot of people, myself included, are struggling with this decision. Let's pretend that we're in court, like our friend Kobe does for his day job. And you can be the defense of playing Min Woo Lee. Perfect. And I'll be the prosecution, which I guess
role-playing here?
Like we're role playing here, and I will be the counter argument or the argument for why you should fade him.
God, I wish I had if you're cowboy hat.
I know, right? So if you're making the case to play Min Woo Lee, where are you starting?
Okay, I am making the case because my notes that I write to myself every year are play players that have history in wind and firm and fast conditions. Leishman again, sandbelt player. Min Woo Lee is that guy. Min Woo Lee, I think, is a better approach player than his stats talk about. I think he has some legs from last week. If you look at over 200 yards, which I'm really dialing in on, I don't really look at stats, but these par threes are extremely important and players hate them. Min Woo Lee is decent. And, he just plus the price it makes it absurd almost not to play him because, he doesn't have to do much if you have a Scheffler Min Woo Lee build, right? If you just lock those two and then do a 4v4. I mean, in cash, Min Woo Lee would be owned absurdly. But that would be my case for Min Woo Lee. I think he's a tour winner. He's good tee to green. He's got around the green prowess. That would be my defense, Kobe DeBow style with the mustache of Min Woo Lee. What's your offense? What's your prosecution of Min Woo Lee?
I would say that
you should just say
he sucks. It's over. I would say that the gap between any player on the PGA Tour right now and the player that they are next to in pricing is a lot smaller than I think the average DFS player may think. And I've been able to formulate an edge understanding that mindset over the last couple of years quite nicely. So let's say Min Woo Lee will be conservative here and say in a large contest, what do you think? 25% more minimum?
Minimum.
We'll go 30%. I think the 50% is a little bit.
Nah, you won't see that.
It's a little myopic to say he's going to be 50%. I feel like.
And here's why.
Hyperbolic
is that you have because you have wind player EVR. Big, huge round 4 last week.
Yeah.
People will play EVR and they're right next door to each other.
Agreed. I currently have. Too. Yep. I currently have EVR well over 10% as well. So I think that eats a little bit of.
You just can't get there. Unless you play both. So.
Right. Now, with that being said, in higher stakes, would you be shocked if there are a couple higher stakes contests where Min Woo's 80%? Right. Because a lot of the higher stakes players will look at the Vegas odds and say to themselves, Min Woo Lee is 40 to 1, 50 to 1 in this field. He's priced next to guys that are 150 to 1. I mean, he's minus 110 in a matchup right now against Will Zalatoris, who's a great play at 8,900.
Yeah, I would say in high stakes, he's over 40. That's the number.
Okay. Yeah. So back to my prosecution case, right? If we have Min Woo in the 30 to 40% range, depending on what tournament you are playing, me and Kobe talked about this strategically last week a lot on the Wednesday show that we did, where the goal that you want to strive for in PGA DFS, if you're trying to win GPPs, is to knock out the players that you are playing against and acquire a high 6 of 6 rate in a week where there's a low 6 of 6 rate, right? So you could basically just take the thought process of, I'm going to take the chance that Min Woo stinks this week, which is very possible. I mean, he just finished almost dead last at the Phoenix Open a week ago.
Sure.
He does have a low floor at times. Okay. Now, if you are able to knock out 30 to 40% of the field, getting it wrong on Min Woo, and just say to yourself, this is the Arnold Palmer Invitational. This is where chalk comes to die. Every single week, people are hopefully starting to learn more and more that nothing is a sure thing. Best play on the slate last week, Eric Cole finishes DFL. Okay. And that's not because Eric Cole's a bad golfer. That's because in 2 rounds of golf, like, anything can happen on these Florida water heavy courses. You can hit a couple into the water and it's over. So nothing's a guarantee.
Eric Cole went out on a 3-hole stretch. I mean,
done. And so there is just, if you're trying to win a GPP and you say to yourself, on this golf course, okay, where water comes into play on 9 holes, where Min Woo has horrendous history. Yeah. I mean, we've seen Min Woo finish DFL in both of his appearances at the Arnold Palmer Invitational, essentially. So he just may hate this golf course. Like, he just may absolutely despise it, like many other PGA Tour pros do. If you're going to say to yourself, the upside of what my DraftKings lineups could look like on the off chance that Min Woo stinks is way higher than the upside that I am getting if Min Woo is good and I play him, because let's say Min Woo's good or he finishes T12, still doesn't guarantee I'm going to win any money. If you play Min Woo at 40% and he finishes T12, you're not cashing a check. You're not guaranteed a goddamn thing. You still have to beat 40% of the field, and you may even lose. Still, there may even be a guy in the 60s that other guys play that is way less owned than Min Woo, then outperforms Min Woo as well. So the case on fading Min Woo is basically just understanding game theory, but it's risky. It's ballsy. He's mispriced by like $1,200 bucks.
Again, we'll use this analogy again, but it's the pick six in horse racing, right? You want the ticket. People talk about odds or people talk about anything. You want the ticket that no one else has. That's what you want. That's what you want in DraftKings. You want the ticket that no one else has. You can get that ticket that no one else has in a six pick environment, even with a couple of chalky plays. That's the difference. I don't really fear ownership as much as some people. I fear ownership of bad plays. I don't think Min Woo Lee is I would not be the lock Min Woo Lee guy. I definitely will play some of him because he does give you options with. I would lock Scheffler. Okay. I will lock Scheffler. And here's how you do it. I mean, this may lead to something behind the scenes with RPS, but if you strip out pricing in golf, with DraftKings, you don't even look at it. And you just do a board of players and their world ranking and say, treat this as a best ball. And you have first pick. Who is everyone taking in this board? Who is everyone taking for this tournament? Largely Scotty Scheffler, probably to a 70-30 ratio to Rory.
Yeah.
And then who are you taking next?
Rory.
People get if you detach yourself from ownership and pricing. Now, obviously, you have limits in terms of what you can make your second and third choice. But taking Scheffler, which everyone would do, treat your lineup building like that. Take the best players. And if Scheffler will allow you to take a Min-Woo Lee, who should be probably 7-9, regardless of ownership, Min-Woo Lee, I mean, you could fight about it all day with stats. Yeah, he could miscut again here. I'm a huge course history truther. That's why I'm not in love with Min-Woo Lee, and I don't love 40% ownership on him. I love Cam Davis, Adam Hadwin more, to be honest with you. I think Adam Hadwin is a great play. I like Cam Davis as a play. So, yeah. If Scotty Scheffler is 50%, I'm still playing Scotty Scheffler at a lock. So
you're all in on Scotty.
I can do I showed it last week with my 5-5-5. I have two heavily owned players. Sadly, it's Eric Cole, right? But then I've got guys who are less than 5% owned who did well. No one's going to have a dupe ticket of that, and that's just how I, look at that higher stakes build. So yeah, I mean, it's just play the best plays. Detach yourself from ownership and pricing. First of all, treat it like a best ball. And who are the top 5 players you're playing? I mean, my 1 is obviously Scheffler. 2, maybe not even Rory for me.
Yeah. I mean, I look at it a little bit differently. I'm definitely more in the game theory camp of understanding that you're playing a game against better players. And so you
got that right. I agree with you there. You're playing against the player, not playing the player. You're not playing the golfer. You're playing against the field. 100%.
Right. You're not.
That's why Saberson is so good. It's basically applying your game theory of contest sense and saying, listen, I love Andy that you love all these plays. Let us assemble it based on what other people are going to do so you win.
Right. And I think that's the issue with like the Vegas odds things, and you're not playing against a sports book, you're playing against other people. So what people miss is you have to weigh the opportunity cost of what happens if you're wrong. Right. And I think in golf, people are generally wrong more than they think. The gap between who they think is the best play and who they think has no chance is like, let's just give the example of last week. And don't get me wrong, I missed on this too. Like I had 0% Min-Woo. Eric Cole and Min-Woo Lee were right next to each other in pricing. And people made the decision willingly knowing that Eric Cole was going to be chalk and Min-Woo Lee was going to be 6%, that they were going to ride a 25% Eric Cole over a 6% Min-Woo Lee. And we saw what happens. And that is golf in a nutshell every single week. So
it's very difficult to predict human behavior. And it's very difficult to predict what a golfer is going to do on a 3-hole stretch on Thursday to take himself out of a tournament like Eric Cole. Does that make him a bad player? No. But that's the thing in golf and why golf Twitter is so volatile and Discord is so volatile with golf, because it's very hard to have firm answers on any of these things, right? One thing, one swing, one club face miss takes someone out of an entire tournament, changes their stats. Oh, they're a terrible approach player. They're a terrible putter. In NFL, it's easier. You can walk up to Jamar Chase before the game and say, you're going to go 8 catches, 110 yards and a touchdown, and him not look at you like you're insane. But if I walk up to Min-Woo Lee this week on the range and say, you know what? You're going to play like shit. You're going to be 35th. I mean, I'm an insane person at that point. I don't know. The one thing you can say is Scotty Scheffler, I'd probably say he's going to finish top 5. And everyone would be like, yeah, probably so.
Last question on Min-Woo, because we should probably talk about some of the other players, but
no, we're talking entirely Min-Woo for an hour. That's it.
But Fighting Irish mentioned this in the chat, and I thought it was a good way to look at it. If you play Min-Woo at whatever 30-40%, and you have the option before the tournament where Min-Woo goes to you and says, I'm going to finish this. Are you signing for it? Like, what's the finish that Min-Woo has to have for you to be satisfied with your play? Like, if Min-Woo comes up to you on Wednesday night and says, hey, I'm going to be 40% and I'm going to finish 12th. Are you playing him?
no, I wouldn't say yes or no. I'd say, where did Hadwin finish?
Yeah.
Where did EVR finish? Where did Hoagie finish?
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah, that's it.
If that's how you have to look at it. If Scheffler
Non-zero
finishes,
sum game. Yeah. No
exactly.
correlation.
If Scheffler finishes 5th, I'm not going to say, yes, I should have played him. I'm going to say, where did Cantland Rory finish? 1, 2?
Mhm.
Okay, then I'm not playing Scheffler. You have to look at this in very isolated price ranges of ownership, because that's how people are going to assemble things in those pockets. And that's how I do it. I did it for this week in tiers 9-8 plus, 8-7 plus, 7-7 plus, 6-7 plus, and then 6K plus. You have to design the plays you like in those tiers. And if you like Min-Woo Lee from the 6 to 6-6 range, or 6 to 6, however you design your ranges, if you think he's the best play coming out, bang. That's your guy. Like for me, if you want to stretch him from the 6-7 to 7-7 range, which may be a little steep, you can even cut that in half. I think Hoagie finishes better than Min-Woo Lee. I think Hoagie's one of the best iron players on tour, right?
Yeah.
And he still continues to play very well. So in that scenario, I want to play Hoagie over Min-Woo Lee.
Yeah.
Not a completely like, well, I'm not playing Min-Woo Lee, but I'll play Hoagie at a better ownership, better iron player, probably better form overall.
Yeah.
That's how you look at it.
And to put a bow on this conversation, you actually may disagree with me, because I think there'll be a lot of people that will kind of hedge their bets and try and play field in Min-Woo. If I was going to play Min-Woo, I would be way over the field on him. I would just say to myself, listen, I don't care what the ownership is. This is a misprice by like $1,500. I'm going to play Min-Woo, and because I believe this is such a misprice, I'm going to get tremendous leverage on the guy over the field, no matter what the price is. And generally, that's the way I play. Like, I keep such a tight pool that every single guy that I play, I am over the field on, most of the time 2x of the field on. And that way, if your tight core hits, you really hit. And, you have to be okay with the fact that if you miss on a guy, like I was 50% Svensson last week. Svensson was in 50% of my lineups.
Yeah.
I knew that he was going to be high owned, but that was my stand. Like, I was like, I love Svensson this week. And it didn't work out for me. And Svensson alone kind of destroyed my week. But I think that's the way that I would
So you
look
do a tight pool and heavy ownership on certain plays.
Yeah. So my pool is generally, and I post it in the Wednesday article every single week, so people can see 20 players. And I do it cascading too, which works for me, but there's different ways to look at this. But like, for example, what I will do on a typical week, this changes from time to time based on how I like the tiers, but I will play 4 guys above 9K. I will play 6 guys between 8.9 and 7.5, and I will play 10 guys below 7.5. So the reason that I do it that way is because I am more confident and I have more data, and I want to be more highly exposed to the good players. And I want to cast a wider net at the bottom because there's more variance at the bottom. Right. So what I will do generally, and sometimes I break this rule if there's a 7.2 guy that I like freaking love and I want 50% of them. But generally what I'll do in, say, a 20 max, Wiley, is my 4 guys above 9K, I will have between 50 and 70% exposure to them. My 6 guys between 7.5 and 9, I will have between 25 and 40% exposure to them. And then my 10 guys below 7.5, I will have between 15% and 25% exposure to them, which, generally, unless they're super chalky under 7.5, which I don't really play chalky guys, I will be way over the field on every single person in my pool doing that.
The thing with golf is that there's no correlation to anything.
Nothing.
That's the trouble. I mean, if Puka Nacua gets 11 catches, that means Cooper Kupp probably got less than that. And so you can correlate that way. The correlation in golf happens with round 4 showdown, because you can attach it to placement. or even win narratives, sometimes AM, PM win narratives. So really, and then you throw in the randomness of scoring with DraftKings, streaks, under 60s, Eagles, it becomes that much more difficult. So in this case scenario, with a no cut event, I think it's top 55 and still, right? 10 within the lead. Is that right? Yes.
It's top 50 in ties, 10 within the lead. Yeah.
Okay. So in this case, in a smaller field with probably a limited number of players getting cut, and I could be wrong. I mean, it could be people absolutely implode. I'm going to have to single one or two players, at least one, in this pick six build, because there's going to be so many commonalities between the builds. So what that does for me, it allows me, if I single two players, if I lock and say, fuck it, it's going to be Scheffler and player X, that allows me to play a bigger pool because I want all the combos at that point. And that's what I do for round 4 showdown. I will lock 1, 2, or even 3 players. And if they hit the optimal, because placement points are so important, and I believe they're either going to stay, move up, finish first, second, or third, or whatever, then that allows me to play, the Grayson Murray miracle round at 1% and have him in my pool. That's what I would do here. So you play a really aggressive 20-player, high ownership tight pool and believe in your numbers. Perfect. So, yeah. What are we talking about? We talk about golf.
Yeah, real quick. So just in a vacuum, you prefer Scheffler to Rory? Does the new putter with Scheffler, does that make you, I mean, it can't get any worse, right?
No,
I mean, what's the downside of him trying a new putter?
I am calling this because my first instinct, I take it, except for Sam Burns at Riviera, I'm not falling for that again. That was my first instinct. But here I'm saying that Scheffler turns it around with the putter this week. Added to the fact that he's changed the putter. He's on a new spider mallet.
Like a mallet now. Yeah.
Yeah. I think he's going to simplify his life with the putting, and I think he's going to smash this week.
Okay. So interesting. So should we do a friendly Rory versus Scheffler, but I get plus 110?
You get plus 110?
That's what the odds are. Rory's plus 110 against Scheffler.
Oh, so you want true Vegas market.
I want a true Vegas market, but I want you to be the bookie.
All 4 days?
Yep. Full tournament. Full tournament. If you
110 to my 100. 110 to my 100, right?
Yeah, let's just make it simple and do that. I take Rory, you get Scotty, you win, I give you 100, I win, you give me 110.
Booked. Yeah.
Okay.
Casino takes 10% juice. Sorry.
Okay. And then so then the other question I would ask you, we'll zoom through this because we already talked a ton about Minwoo Lee and referenced some players in the 7s, but who's your favorite in the 9s, man? I mean, this is such a fascinating range.
Right. So in this week, I said high range, 9.8 and up. Right. So who in that range is going to be the 1-1-2? For me, Scheffler, and probably Cantlay. I think Cantlay, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt that he was sick at Riviera, but he should have won that tournament. And I think that he'll probably come in the same. Actually, I think he'll come in lower than Hovland. I think people still love playing Hovland.
Cantlay or Hovland, you're saying?
I'm saying Cantlay comes in that range with the Xander Coulters. Victor has his own range, the 9.8 plus range. It's going to go. I think Cantlay will be the best ownership, and I think he's the best 1A to Scheffler.
Agree with you. I have Cantlay right now 14 and Hovland 18. Does that sound about right?
About right. I think Cantlay will be lower. Hovland could be higher, but I think you're zoning in.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you think? You like Cantlay?
I always like Cantlay. As RPS subs know. It's a tricky range. And I just posted my first ownership run through in the Discord. It is outside of Homa, Morikawa, JT, which are the leverage, the ownership gap between Spieth, Aubert, Xander, Hovland, Cantlay, I have all those guys right now between 14 and 19. That could change. Somebody could emerge. I don't really believe the Ludwig ownership. I actually thought, based on what I was hearing and seeing on Twitter, that Ludwig would be pretty chalky. And my first run through had him at 18.5, which is still, not sneaking up on anybody. But I wonder if that Ludwig number he would be my guess to be the highest owned in the nines, Ludwig.
No,
You think Xander more than Ludwig?
No, in the nines. So I don't have
Hovland.
I put Xander in the sort of the top tier higher range, and then I dropped down to it'll include the nines. I did the 8.7s to like 9.7s. I think Sam Burns is going to be the highest.
I kind of agree with you. Like, I have Burns at 17% right now, and there's a lot of Burns love. He's like 22-1 in the betting markets. He's got like 4 top 10 finishes in a row. He hasn't been great at this golf course, but I think people are very much in on Burns this week. I am a little bit less so, I got to admit.
I am too. Back on Florida, though, back on Bermuda, one in Florida. And the thing about this golf course is, and Tiger winning 8 times should speak to this, is that conservative golf wins here, right? And Tiger is a very conservative golfer. To me, Hovland is not. Fowler never had a good success here. Not a conservative golfer, right?
Yeah.
Aubert, big, aggressive, young.
Great driver.
I think he's fantastic, right?
Yeah.
I think the one guy that's going to be, Cameron Young can be really, really frustrating. I think he's pretty aggressive. Colin Morikawa is a fucking steal.
I was going to say that. So my next question was of this leverageable tier, because I think Zalatoris I have at 19% high. I have Cameron Young at 20%. People are in on Cameron Young at this golf course. So of this Homa Morikawa
conservative
JT tier, there's a lot of leverage there. And I was going to ask you who your favorite is of Homa Morikawa JT. And I was going to say that mine is Morikawa of that group. Although I understand the Homa argument, I understand the JT argument. Is Morikawa your favorite of that group too?
Listen, I'm a huge Morikawa, a huge Homa fan. Again, conservative golfer too. Knows how to hit the right spots and when to hit the right spots on the green.
Good at Bay Hill. Yeah.
Good at Bay Hill. If it's US Open, it's a +4. It's a -4 win. Homa is the guy on really long courses where you have to play conservative. He's the guy you want. The problem with Homa recently, and Keith Stewart pointed this out, he's got a young kid, I think. He looks frustrated. I don't know if that's changed. That can change week to week. It can change hour to hour. It can change day to day. I think Homa Morikawa is a honey hole, right? Those two guys. I think someone died in my kitchen. Someone literally just died. Are you okay? Thomas, no. No, not right
now. Okay, so real quick, favorite play in the 8s.
Okay, so my range, I did 7.7 to 8.7, but it'll
that's fine.
Okay, it'll encompass the 8s. I think that Jason Day was the biggest withdrawal, most punishing withdrawal ever a few years ago when he was super chalk, ton of course history here, great putter, great off the tee. Sometimes in previous years, a decent iron player. He withdrew and went to Disney, and it killed everyone. I think there's some PTSD from that. I'm not saying I eliminate Day. I think he's gonna be one of the higher owned, if not the highest owned in this range. I don't want to play him in the wind. Matthew Pavon is a very good approach player if you look at his stats. Not a ton I like here, but who's going to play Matsuyama, right?
I like it.
8.4.
I have him at 9.5%, which is pretty damn good.
And if you carry it down to 7-7, Corey Connors for sure.
Love Corey Connors. Corey Connors will get some ownership, but I think that's what I'm going to eat. Chris Kirk, I have pretty high too in terms of ownership as well. You got to remember, it's like with such a smaller field. Like I'm looking at the high 7s and low 8s. I have Pavone at 14, Chris Kirk at 17, Corey Connors at 14.5. Then what the hell do we do with Jake Knapp at 15%, 7.6 Jake Knapp?
What has Jake Knapp done wrong? Nothing.
I mean, I was talking about this on the podcast I just did, where it's just like this guy just came out of nowhere. And, the narrative on Knapp was like 5% at the Cognizant, coming off a win. And
nearly wins again. Jake Knapp bothers Natalie.
I could see him like not being her vibe. Although I will say this, maybe this is a flex. I'm like way low.
So you're in one. You have one flex, and I was doing a podcast Sunday.
In the next 5 minutes, I have to get like.
Come on, let's make the underbetters sweat. Let's go.
Okay. I was playing golf at my club in LA Flex with a guy who played. His son played college golf with Knapp at UCLA, and he was telling me this Knapp guy was a absolute stud at UCLA, and he kind of lost it in his 20s and always had this talent, but was just grinding away, Corn Ferry Tour, mini tours. Like he never could put it all together at the right time. But then when it clicked, clearly, I mean, it's clicked. Yeah.
She hates him. I guess she doesn't really like flex. Would she call me the unreformed frat boy when I had a hat back?
And Natalie will hate him even more. He's sponsored by a vape company.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
You vape, don't you?
I do. I'm not proud of it, but I do. Everything else in my life is very healthy. So it's my one flaw. But
she's outside that window. One day we'll pull it up.
But yeah, I'm so out the second she heard he was sponsored by a vape company.
I thought she was out on you for vaping.
She's been out on both. Yeah.
Okay.
Knapp is sponsored by Coastal Clouds. I don't even know what is Coastal Clouds. I think it's one of the big vape juice companies where you get the big ones and blow the giant clouds of smoke.
The Appy Barn Rat ones. Yeah.
Yeah. The Appy Barn Rat ones. Anyway, I'm going to play Benny On instead of Jake Knapp.
That's you got the Benny On whisperer.
Yeah. I have my friend who's a good Benny On buddy, Flex, trying to get to 7. That's 4. Yeah. He was telling me that Benny On, you play Benny On in Bermuda, and Benny On is very close. Okay. Benny On is close. So I'm Benny On 7.6. I can definitively tell you I will be there.
Do you say play Benny on Bermuda or
yes
in Bermuda?
On Bermuda.
Okay. I thought you meant Bermuda. The actual country of. Speaking of which, Puerto Rico, quickly, Berger and the two kids, Chan and SH. Chan Kim is a fucking star.
Yeah.
All right. This range, 7, let's say 6-6 to 7-6. So then this incorporates the Min Woo Lee. In fact, you could probably tear him down a little bit into the Stone Min range. But this has a lot to like. Again, every week to week, Hoagie, one of the best iron players on tour, sub 10% owned. What has he done wrong over this last stretch to make you say that an iron heavy, approach heavy course that Tom Hoagie is not a play? I will believe in Jagger again.
Me too.
I will believe in Bazane de Hout again. Again, great iron player, good around the green, good putter, win player, South African. Shane Lowry, he's still 6, not great course history, but he's in that range too. Almost won last week. Again, he backs off. He teases you a little bit, and then he pulls away. That didn't sound great. That didn't sound great. This is after hours, Natalie. I'm sorry. This is the OnlyFans version. We're an hour. We're almost after the first hour.
Once we get past 45 minutes.
45 minutes, then you get the fun stuff.
Yeah, the wheel starts to come
quote
off.
RPS 15. But Hadwin, Long Iron player, Florida winner, Valspar will always go into history as one of my favorite plays. If you win the Valspar, that's why Casey is one of my favorite players of all time. Hadwin, great long iron player, great par 3 player. Reminds me of a Leishman, good putter. And then tell me why I should not play Cameron Davis, because I'm going to do it. Just tell me, Andrew. Tell me why I should pull out of Cam Davis.
Yeah, I loved it. My numbers on Davis this week are all over the map. I mean, he has the elite driving skill that you would want on this golf course.
Yes.
He also dominates par 5s, is a good long iron player. Why don't my Aussie? Why don't my numbers like him? He just stinks. I think is probably the case.
He stinks.
Yeah, he stinks. The funny thing is,
your hand looks gigantic. Look at it. It looks like a circus hand.
It's the sunlight. A guy
it's like almost that elephant disease. Wait,
a guy could.
Sorry.
We're wrapping up here. A guy could win the Valspar, and be on his deathbed a week later, and Wiley would be like elite play. The best play in the low sixes is Valspar winner in a red state, Taylor Moore. How have we not talked about it?
You have been poisoned by Saul.
Me and Saul have been talking about Taylor Moore all week.
What's Taylor Moore's price? He's 6'6"? He's 6'3". Okay. That's 6'3". Okay. That's the Stone Min range, right? I'll be playing Webb Simpson in that range, so it's okay. I've got a problem.
Oh my God. You got to give up the Webb. I don't know.
I don't mind Taylor Moore at 6'3". I mind him in the range where I need him to beat Hoagie's, Bez, Kitayama. Last year's winner. 7'3", Kitayama, sub 10%. Yeah. People have lost their fucking minds.
Yeah.
So go play your Min Woo Lees. I'm off Min Woo Lee now. You know what?
Interesting. So the prosecution looks like they snuck that one out.
Kobe lost another one.
No, I can guarantee. I haven't asked him yet.
That's my Kobe impression, by the way.
Yeah, Kobe is probably anti-Min Woo Lee because he plays very contrarian. Okay, last question. Winner of API. You're going Scheffler. Okay.
Yeah. If you want a different answer, I'm going to say Cantlay.
Okay. I like that. I think Cantlay's a sharp play this week. Yeah. I'm going to go with Hovland.
Why do you like Hovland? He's been.
Well, I got down this rabbit hole about him on thick, rough courses. Like he
loves the thick rough.
He does love the thick rough. His chipping technique out of thick rough, I think it's a little bit more manageable. You look at all of his best short game performances there at Olympia Fields and Oak Hill and LACC and TPC Southwind and East Lake, all those thicker, rough Bermuda courses, Muirfield Village. And he did this Claude Harmon interview where he was talking about things starting to come together for him. He's played well at this course in the past, so I think he's a good player.
That's the one thing that cannot be understated enough. It's a treacherous, very punitive Bermuda rough. Mm-hmm. And even on the par 5-6, that around the lake par 5.
Yeah.
It can give you a lot of trouble. And when there's water and there's wind and there's rough and you're not a beast. So Hovland's your winner.
Hovland's my winner. We got to go. Bring in Tank. Where's Tank? Is he in the room?
Yeah. Natalie wants the dog. She's got that dog in her.
Don't you think she suggested this?
Mm-hmm.
Arnold Palmer's a good dog name.
Is a good dog name?
Don't you think?
Yeah. Do you have a dog?
I don't have one in LA. She has one. I have a family dog in New York, but I don't have one in LA. Is Tank in the building?
No. If Tank was in the building, I'd bring her up here, but she's not in the building right now.
Home with the kiddos and wife.
Yeah. That's where she's
okay. All right. We'll do what's the plan for Wednesday? You got to tell me. Are we doing something with Keith at 3 p.m. or noon? Or people really love the Kobe show. Do we want to like pick and choose our spots with that one?
Yeah, it's either going to be 3 o'clock with us.
Okay. And Keith or just us?
Keith, I never like to use too much of his time because he's doing so much content for everyone.
Yeah.
If Keith ever says, "Hey, I'd love to come on a show," or "Let's do something," we're on. So that's why it's sort of in flex. You and Kobe at 8, I think that's a good show.
Can we bring Kyle on too this week as well? Just because Huey Mack in the chat right now. Huey Mack, as you know him in the Discord.
Oh, has he done live stuff before?
Kyle's been on my podcast a ton before. He knows. Okay. Kyle's really good.
Does he have a makeup guy? Does he have a makeup guy?
Yeah. Yeah, he does. He's got all the stops. He's got a mic. I could send him a mic too. But yeah, so we'll do 8 p.m. then for the subs with Natalie and Wiley and Kobe.
Yeah. Natalie and me are just going to do a show. We can talk about you the entire time.
Coming up next on Run Pure Sports Podcasting Network.
Tell me about Andy.
Natalie, Wiley, and Tank.
Well, we got 2 live viewers. Wow.
Natalie, Wiley, and Tank. Okay. All right, Wiley. All right. I'll see you tomorrow.
We'll talk about it tomorrow. We'll figure out tomorrow. I got to go check on these Run Pure guys to make sure they're alive.
Okay, later.
I take a stick in there and just poke bodies. Clown. What did you do, Andy? Andy just left before I did the outro, so I'm just going to sit here and complain about him the entire time. Yes, the one thing, who said clown makeup, Ghost Champ? As always, Kyle. He just left. Yeah, the biggest thing is the Ayuga clown car that we have in the Discord for all the players that absolutely destroy us. Eric Cole last week. Get in the car. Get in the clown car. Plenty of seats. Ayuga. I cannot believe that Andrew Lack just dipped. And this is the point where Natalie should come on. You need to get his vape in.